Know yourself. You say, Brother Femi is very good on the saxophone. Or you say, Brother Ralph, who plays the sax. You come to him and say, I want to learn how to play the saxophone. He says, okay, do you have enough wind? I'll try. Have you ever taken a deep breath before? No. Can you try it? You go, you're not ready. Know yourself. I think I would like to have a PhD. Okay. Do you like reading? No. Will you ever have this PhD? No. Because you don't like to read. Know yourself. So we're looking at an environment that works, creating an environment that works. I had a meeting with some of you a few days ago, I believe it was sometime last week, and I was explaining certain things to you, and along the line I said that from this month of May, you're going to be working in a different environment, and I meant it. I said, now for the benefit of those of you who were not here, because you should have been here, you probably were not informed, but you're supposed to have been here. I have taken time to review our lifestyle as a nation, our methods, our way of thinking. It reminds me of something. Maybe I should define it for you. Do you have an idea of what I'm saying? What's this? What's this word? Pragmatism. Okay? The meaning of an idea lies in the obvious or observable consequences. That means in Nigeria, when you say we're going to do it well in advance, your definition of advance in Nigeria lies in the observable consequences. That will tell whether you were in advance or not. So we have our thinking messed up to a large extent in our nation. Why we must create an environment that works. So you call it a working environment, but I don't use a working environment because that can give you a different definition. It might mean to you an environment where you work, but I am talking about an environment that works. You have to know yourself, then you know where you are. And then you decide to distinguish yourself. Let us look at some. One of the reasons why I have some hope for Nigeria, because many nations, even though they didn't go through the kind of things that we went through or that we have been through or that we are into, they made a lot of changes also. There's so many things. They're not today what they used to be. But there were people who championed the crusade for change. There were those who inspired change. There were those who were catalysts for change. So there is a possibility. We can actually have a change. We can recreate our nation, our way of thinking. So I want to begin from this evening to explain to you certain things. But you see, you have to be willing and determined for a change before a change can take place. Not only do you just want a change, you ask yourself, what will the change bring? I think that you want to be able to, as a nation, we want to move in our streets with better consciousness of safety. We want to ride cars in better roads. We want to have a cleaner environment. We want to do things without these power supply interruptions. We want to stop all the use of generators. We want to see a better nation with more decency. Everyone wants it. We want law and order without abuse of human rights. Everybody wants it. But is there anything we can do to bring that change to reality? Yes. It can start from somewhere. Major changes, socio-economic changes in many nations began from somewhere. Once you're able to alter the thinking process of a few people who become passionate about their ideas, you have begun to effect a national change. So I'm thinking that what you learn here will not only affect you as an individual, it'll impact also on the nation, because it'll affect everything you do and translate itself from person to person and from place to place. All right. In considering an environment that works, or in building an environment that works, some things must first be considered. Number one is culture. Number two, ideology. Number three, vision. Number four, action. Is that making any sense? I want you to review what you've just written and look at it very well. Number one is what? Culture. Number two. Number three. And number four, action. They can all be created where they don't exist. They can all be changed where they exist. And in our environment here, there is a need to create these things, or to change what exists. Hello? How many of you are involved in you're involved in a process of change? Let me see your hand. No, are you putting up your hand because you think it's what everybody should do? Or are you putting up your hand because you know that you're involved? I didn't say how many of you should be involved. I said how many of you are involved. If I were to ask you now, in what way are you involved? What are you doing to effect a change? Or what are you doing as part of the process? You're sure you can tell me? Let me see your hand up. You know? Okay, so let's start taking it. Let me see your hand again. I'm going to go one by one. All right, you are not sure. You're not sure. Are you sure? Are you involved? You are? You're sure? Now, I'm not going to take it that you are just because you look like you are. What about you? Are you involved? Really? Okay. And you? You sure? Okay, I'm trying to look for somebody who may not be sure. Are you involved? Your hand is down. What about, okay. I want to be sure. Now, make sure your hand is down if you are not sure. Are you involved? You sure? What about the guy next to you? Okay, he is. What about the lady? You're not sure. Okay, you stand up. As the first person that is not sure. Stand up. No. There's a lady behind. Oh, was your hand down too? She's not sure. Is your hand up? Okay. No. You remain standing. Are you involved? Your hand is down. It was up. Okay, I didn't see it. Okay. I want to be sure. Okay. I don't want to assume anything. You? Okay, you're not sure. Your hand is down. Okay, can you check, see who's near you, whose hand is not up, so know who to talk to now. Is anybody around you whose hand is not up? Okay. All right. First, let me give you an accurate definition of what I've given you here. You want to write? Okay. Culture. The totality of socially transmitted behavior patterns, arts, beliefs, institutions, and all other products of human work and thought. Do I go again? The totality of socially transmitted behavior patterns, arts, beliefs, institutions, and all other products of human work and thought. Then, secondly, and more importantly, the predominating attitudes and behavior that characterize the functioning of a group or organization. Then write this. The development of the intellect through training or education. The next, the enlightenment resulting from such training or education. Now, that's important. So that's culture. Now, the last two definitions will give you the idea that it is something we can create. It is something that we can create. The attitudes and behavior or behavior patterns that characterize a group, organization. It's talking about a group of people. And it shows that we can produce that way of thinking. We can create that behavior pattern through training and education. Now, this is the thing that our national leaders are, in my estimation, absolutely and sadly ignorant of, in spite of the fact that they are professors. Why? No government in Nigeria has ever endeavored to give a culture to Nigeria. They all talk about an African culture that does not exist. A savage, wild, beastly culture that anybody will come up with if he were left to himself in the bush. That's the definition of African culture. And that's what the proponents of Africanism seek to impart. But here, you would have to be given that culture. That's why I said, from now, from this month, you begin to work in a different environment. For example, in our nation, there are no consequences for wrongdoing. All right? We have a legal system that is unreliable and a justice system that is selective. So we can't work with it. It's not useful if we want to be recognized in the Committee of Nations in the very near future. Okay. So you bring it home and say, what are we going to be doing? We want an environment that works. We have to create a culture. We have to begin to think of the kind of behavior. How do we want people to act? How do we want them to do what they do? I've always thought about influencing human behavior because I believe that's what God always wanted to do. I believe that's what the Bible is for. Change your life so you can change the way you do what you do. Even in my university, my course of study, architecture, that's what I did. My project was on architectural influence on human behavior. That's what I chose to work on. I created the thought. I created the topic. And told him that's what I want to work on this. Architectural influence on human behavior. I thought, as an architect, how do I influence human behavior? Because I always thought too many people behaved terribly. You have a lawn. You have to put a fence on it for people not to go through. I thought, how can't we use architecture to create these things? If you remove that fence, they will walk through it. They just couldn't see. You have a beautiful lawn, and then you have a footpath diagonally through that lawn. You wonder who did it. Somebody went through it, and another until it turned brown, and before long, the grass in it got off. It became bald. People just don't. So you understand the human way of thinking when he's wired. He thinks in straight lines. What's a straight line? The shortest line between two points. So you say, come over here. If it's there, he feels like jumping over that place. If he could, he would. The only thing he's not going to go over that is because it's too high. So he's compelled to go this way. That's architecture. Trying to tell him, slow down. Go that way and down there. If you take it lower, he'll sail over it. The way people reason. Take away the glasses from there. As people are coming into church, some will come through the window. It's just the way they think. So, we have to review our lifestyle here and say, all right, how can I change my life to create, in the beginning, you create your environment. In the end, it will create you. So when I say an environment that works, the reason is because we have already been influenced by the present environment that we have that does not work. And it's affecting our way of life, affecting our productivity. And so we have to say to ourselves, for us to become more productive, we must create an environment that works. And then that environment will become an enabling environment that helps us produce what we want to do. So I'm actually calling on you to look at your environment. Okay, you just had your lunch in your office. You push the plate under the table. It starts smelling. What kind of environment is that? I'm talking culture. Your way of life, your behavior. You've been too busy to have your bath for 2 days. So, you become a problem to those who you're working with. And you wonder why your subordinates are becoming angry and furious every time you speak or come close to them. Then say, okay, yes, okay, you give an instruction. Okay, it's like, please just let me go. Okay, you go. Got a problem with you. Or your hair that you wouldn't make for a long time. You've not gone to the salon for a long time. Now it's smelling, it's stinking, and you still carry it and bring it to that subordinate. I want you to write this. But, that is oppression. Culture. your behavior. You've just done this hairstyle that is so fine, it must stay for 1 month. You forget that every day you sweat on your head, it dries in that place. You're telling us it's going to stay for 1 month. Everywhere you pass, the smell goes with you. It can't stay for 1 month. Yes, you're saving your money, and you think the hair still looks good. It's not an issue of looking good. It's a question of, is it right? Is it hygienic? So you don't know why you're difficult to work with. You are senior managers. I want to tell you something. If any of you has an issue with a junior officer, start from yourself. No matter, especially when you know that you are a good person, you are good, and you think it's your subordinate that's a problem. Start from yourself. Say, I am so nice. I'm such a good person. Why would my subordinate become recalcitrant, become rude? Why? Then go and stand in front of the mirror and say, what is wrong with you? Ask yourself some questions. How often do I have my bath? 1. Is my hair stale? 2. Is my mouth smelling? 3. Do I use fresh clothes? 4. I noticed you didn't write anything. Those are the things you should write. I'm telling you. Those are the things you should write. Robert wrote a book titled, If You Need Healing, Do These Things. I'm trying to tell you something. If you want to be very successful, do these things. So you write these ones down. Then you go close to me and do like, and wait to know whether it's smelling. Or if you have somebody that will be willing to tell you the truth, just do that and say, please excuse me. Say, is it smelling? Just tell me the truth. I can guarantee you something. If you have a hole in your mouth, in any of your teeth, if you have a hole, you are smelling. You may not like what I said, but it is a fact. You're going to have food hiding in that hole, stored in that hole, decaying in that hole, and smelling like rotten meat. Whether you know it or not, if you have a hole in your mouth, in any tooth, your mouth is smelling. You don't need anybody to tell you. I have told you. And if you have more than one hole, Now, how do you know if you have a hole in your mouth? Very simple. Use your tongue. We count our teeth with the tongue. You don't use your hand to say, You use your tongue to count your teeth. So if you want to know whether or not you have a hole, use your tongue to find out. Or put very cold water inside and hold it. You'll know what the problem is. Or, better still, if it's not so bad yet, go to a dentist. We don't have a culture of visiting such professionals here. Under normal circumstances, I understand you have to see a dentist every 6 months. For me, I try to get the things that the dentist would have been using, so I can reduce my visits. I have visited dentists several times, but I try to reduce my visits by getting some things I would need. I think the dentists, some of you have sent some of you to the dentist. So I think all of you here should get ready to visit the dentist. Oh, it's for good. It's important. It's for good. It's for good. Once I've done my own mouth treatment, I feel fresh. I feel like I just had a whole bath. That's the way I feel. I feel wonderful. And sometimes I ask myself, why you feel so good? Isn't it just this little thing you did in your mouth? It's not the whole body. Come on, I just feel wonderful. I feel light. I think you should give it a consideration. Not a very popular thing to talk about, right? Everybody's quiet. You don't see anything. But I'm trying to let you know where you could have some problems, why some people cannot cooperate with you. Maybe coming from inside you. And have you noticed some people, the way they talk? Instead of doing this, we want to talk. And then I want to say something to you. I say, that, have you noticed, a lot of people do it. They want to tell you something and they move back. Then you are talking to them, oh yes, what did you say? Okay, actually, I want to. They're thinking, maybe they might just be smelling. And so they're trying to take it away from you so you don't notice. Just go and brush. Go and brush. What do you think? Go and brush. If you have a hole, no brushing can help you. So go to the dentist. Let them feel it. Or remove it. Because it could be so bad, it can't be filled. Those of you who love chocolates and sweets and all those kind of things, your teeth are in danger if they are not already damaged. But I will ask you this coming week, this is the beginning of the week, go to the dentist. Fix an appointment. It won't cost you too much. Do we have anybody here who is a trained dentist? Is anybody here? Who's a dentist? Aha, thickness. We'll have to discuss whether it's possible for them to visit you. Sometimes we prefer to see a doctor we don't know, right? That is the beginning of madness. Go to a doctor you know, not the one you don't know. So we're looking at culture there, and I've given you a definition. Can you read for me the last two, Numbers 3 and 4? Again, the development of the intellect, through training or education, and then the next one. Good. You're looking at your mind. It's a training of the mind. Developing your mind. It says through what? Training or education. Why does it training or education? Because you can be trained to do something without being told anything about it. Like the lady I heard about who always broke the fish into 3 parts. Broke the head part of it and broke the tail part of it and cooked it. And the daughter asked her, "Mommy, why do you always break the head of the fish and the tail of the fish and put it in the pot to cook it?" She said, "That's the way it ought to be done." She said, "What? Why?" She said, that's the way. That's the way it ought to be done. Well, why? Well, my mom taught me to do it that way. That's the way it ought to be. So, the daughter decided she was going to find out from grandma. Why must we always break the head and break the tail before boiling the fish? So she went to grandma and said, Granny, why did you teach my mom to break the head and break the tail of the fish before cooking it? Oh, she said, darling, it was because the pot was too small. When your mother was a little girl, that's what I did. The pot was too small. So I always had to break it in little pieces before cooking it. You see, there was no science to it. Mama just learned it from grandma. Not because it was right, but that's the way she was trained. She had no education. She had a training. You get it now? That's the difference. If she had been educated, she would know the reason. All right, number 2 is what? I already write this down. Ideology. The body of social, or rather, the body of ideas reflecting the social needs and aspirations of an individual, group, class, or culture. The body of ideas reflecting the social needs and aspirations of an individual, group, class, or culture. Next, a set of doctrines or beliefs that form the basis of a political, economic, religious, or other system. A set of doctrines or beliefs that form the basis of a political, economic, religious, or other system. A set of doctrines that form their beliefs. When in building an environment that works, I said number 1 is culture. You begin to train the people, giving them a thinking process, a behavioral system, or pattern. You begin to educate their minds. You give them information, the kind of information that they require to help them obtain or create or achieve this type of behavior that you want them to have. For example, in our ministry, we have an evangelical culture. We preach the gospel. We like to tell people about Jesus. Why? Because that's the way we have been educated. That's the way that we have been trained. We've been given the right information, and it's been drummed into us until every one of us has become a preacher. I was listening while watching LCN earlier on the day. I was watching Rhapsody, and there was this young lady that was preaching to a group of police officers, and she was telling them things that I thought were beyond them. you know. But I was touched. I was thinking, wow. You know what she said to them? She said, a dog gives birth to a dog. She said, a cow gives birth to a cow. Isn't it true? They said, yeah. She said, so when God gives birth, what will he give birth to? To gods. Then she said, so when you believe in Jesus Christ, you become a god. And the police officers were just looking like this, their eyes bulging out. I thought, can they believe this? You know, that sounded real big. But that's what, you see, she knows it. But she's not a trainer. You get it? She's not a teacher or educator. But she's preaching what she knows. Praise God. So we have a giving culture. We love to give. You see, it's a culture. We think that way. We want to give everything we've got into the gospel. It's an orientation. We're raised that way. You're not a member of the ministry until you have learned to be a giver. It's just that way. We love and celebrate the word. It's the most important part of a service to us. Why? That's the culture. And I've been in places, I told you on Sunday, I've been in places where it wasn't the word they were there for. You ask them, what do you enjoy in the service? They tell you the worship. Somebody said the choir. Somebody said, well, I love the testimony section. Hardly say anything about the word. But we have a culture. Everything is the word, the word, the word, the word. We want to know it. We are excited about it. That's a culture. Now, there are other things that you can bring into your life. Can you train yourself to do things at the right time? That's a culture. And this was what they were trying, listen, this is important. This was what they were trying to help us do when we were younger and came late to school and we were punished. When the government changed and the UPN and the MPN and so on and so forth came in, they spoiled everything. That's a long story. Well, they spoiled everything. Incidentally, so many of you, that was when you were in school. After everything got spoiled. So you don't know that there are consequences for late coming. It doesn't mean anything. Ask your father. If your father is about anything from 60 years and above, ask him about lateness. Find out if he went late to places. If he had an appointment and he went late, find out. Most of those people will tell you, no. They don't accept lateness. If you tell them to see you at 5, they will be there before 5. If you say, see me 8 a.m., they will be there before it's 8. That's their way. So why don't we have it? Because most of us were trained in a different environment. No consequences for wrongdoing. You come late, the teacher says kneel down, you tell your father comes to school in the morning to make trouble for the teacher. You see, they did not transfer what they had to the next generation. They saw that punishment, the consequences for wrongdoing. They saw the penalty as an indictment on their intelligence. But it was not. It was part of the training process. Think of how many times some of you here, your parents went to school to make trouble for the headmaster or for the principal. They say, you touch my son. You touch my son. You will kill me instead. There's fight in the school. They didn't help the child. They destroyed the child. So what are you going to do for yourself? You're going to have to reculture yourself, because you have lost that already. You're now going to have to work hard at getting it. You're going to have to work hard at getting it. It's a very important part of life that you missed. A very important part of life. You see, God can't use you until your spirit is cultured. God can't use you. And God wants to use you. God needs you. You know so much, but there's a difference between culture and knowledge. There's a difference. You may know that it is important to give your offering, but you don't have a culture of giving it. You may know all the scriptures about winning souls and what to do to reach the world, and never do anything about it because you don't have the culture. You can give a seminar on time management, but you may never manage your time because there's no culture. And because of that, we have created another culture. You know what culture? Let me explain something. It is said that if you don't plant anything in your garden, something will grow. The only thing is, what's going to grow is something you probably don't want. So something will still grow. It's just that you're going to get what you don't want. So if you don't culture yourself, the environment will culture you. You will still be cultured, but you're going to have a bad one. Most of us have a bad one. Our nation, we as a people, we have a bad culture. It's a fact. And we all want something good. Let me explain something to you. I was reviewing some of these thoughts earlier on today. How many of you know about Virgin Nigeria? Is that what you call it? Virgin Nigeria. How many of you know about it? Okay. How many of you are with now? I don't know if they've already changed things, but when they just started, I heard they are very prompt. They don't delay. You got to get there early. How many of you heard that? Did any of you fly with Virgin? Anytime? You did? Did you go quickly? Did you go early? Okay. Why did Nigerians notice it? Because they're used to going late. And the airline, the plane will be waiting. You see some of them doing like this to the pilot. And while the plane is taxiing off, there's he will still wait for these rascals that are coming with them, and they're carrying many things. And they wait and take them. They turned those airplanes to molues. But then came Virgin. And Virgin said, you don't come in early, you miss the flight, you lose your money. So, very quickly, my flight is for 6, 5 a.m. they're there. That will tell you Nigerians can keep to time if you compel them. They don't have the training, you got to force them. It shows us something. We are still a wild horse. We must be broken. We're still a wild horse. If Virgin did like the others, nobody would care. And they loved it. The people wanted to get to wherever they were going early. They wanted everything to work quickly. And so they were ready to cooperate with Virgin. But you see, they don't have the culture. The question you ask yourself is, the officials chosen by Virgin, were they cultured to attend to people promptly? So it won't be long. If they haven't changed already to be like the others, it's a matter of time. They will change and come down to the level. It's called the Nigerian way. Somebody will go to the office there and say, please tell them to delay for 30 minutes. We're on our way. And said, okay. He collect the money and said, don't worry, that plane will not fly out to you. Because even though they've written it 9 a.m., they have not cultured the people on the ground. So it's not going to work. That's the reason why many good schools start. They tell you the proprietor or the proprietress is very wonderful, trained in America or trained in London or Germany. And then say, they're wonderful. The school has all the facilities. So you say, my children will go to that school. Then they start. Year 1, year 2, year 3. Then the standard becomes like any other school. You say, why? No culture. All they had were instructions. So we can announce to you, 8 a.m., if you are not in the office, there's trouble. You will come. After about 5 days, even you say it yourself, they will soon be tired. Say all these things they are done with me, big. They'll soon be tired. Successive governments have been worn out. Individuals, school leaders have been worn out. People have tried. What they didn't do was to culture the people. Culture. And when you talk culture, you're looking at a growing process. It's not overnight, but you instill certain things. See, you begin and then you start working at it. So, last week, there was something I did. There were some people here who were suspended from work. Why? Because of their failure to act according to responsible expectations. So you're going to be working in a different environment henceforth. It is in your interest. You will face consequences for your wrongdoing. See? And you don't feel bad. You may cry. You may be upset, but it only shows